Okay, it's that time. Let's go and take a look at how the markets are wrapping up for the end of the week. We're going to start with the FTSE 100 right here in London. It is up. It's basically tracking its European peers with the mood boosted by easing trade worries. Energy and healthcare companies actually leading the charge in London. European markets also up, continuing yesterday's gains. Also helping was that strong session we saw in Asia. Talking of Asia, the Nikkei, look at that. That's a 7-month high. All backed by a weaker yen, which helps the exporters. Remember, when the yen is weak, it's cheaper for us to buy that Japanese stuff, so we buy more of it, apparently, and those companies make more money. It's also been investors sort of hoping that Beijing and Washington will get back around the table for further talks. And Brent crude, let's take a look at that. Brent crude, pinch down, $78.17 a barrel. That's what it's going to cost you. Hey, can you believe this? Tomorrow is September the 15th. 10 years! Saturday, tomorrow, 10 years exactly since the bankruptcy of the US bank Lehman Brothers. It was, of course, the defining moment of the global financial crisis, which is still having some profound effects around the world. And one of those who had a bird's eye view was Ray Dalio, the founder of Bridgewater Associated, which is one of the largest hedge funds in the world. And we are delighted that Ray joins us from New York. Ray, good to see you. Hey, let's start briefly. 10 years ago, before Lehman's, be honest, did you see the financial tsunami coming?
Well, fortunately, we did. 2008, we made quite a bit of money. We saw it about a year ahead, and that's because the same things happen over and over again. What happened in the financial crisis was the same thing that happened in 1929 and 32, and that's why I put out this template and make it available for everybody to read, because I think you need to see the lessons.
Yeah. And so is it a case then? Because you've got this book out, and it's really fascinating. I was looking at that. As you said, look, we had the inflationary depression in the 20s in Germany. Then, as you say, the 30s depression around the world. Is it a case that we don't learn our lessons? We haven't been watching the patterns.
People don't study the patterns. That study that you're referring to, that's available for everybody free of charge on principles.com, by the way, just shows 48 cases, all 100% of the cases that happened that were big debt crises over the last 100 years, and the same thing happens over and over again. If I can, I'd like to just describe what happened and where we are.
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so the cycle always happens the same way. Basically, in the early part of a debt cycle, lending occurs and at a rate that can be paid back. Then you get in a bubble because everybody extrapolates the past. And then they bid up asset prices borrowed with money. And then we get into a tightening phase. Now, the big ones come along because when you have the downturn, you hit zero interest rates. When you hit zero interest rates, you can't any longer have the monetary policy work through interest rates, so you have to print money. The only times that happened was 1929 to 32, and then the 2008 financial crisis. That's why it's a big one. Yeah, right. At that time, then you have central banks printing money, they buy financial assets, and you have the expansion, and you have the period that we've been in. That period of time also produces populism because the purchases of those financial assets drive up asset prices, and those who have asset prices benefit, and those who don't benefit. And so we're in a spot of the economy where we, like the late 1930s, 1935 to 40 is the most analogous period, because it has been pumped up with the purchases of those financial assets. Interest rates are very close to zero. As a result, we don't have a situation where they can also stimulate monetary policy in the event of a downturn. And we also have populism around the world. My concern is that in the future, and I would say in maybe 2 or 3 years, we're going to have another downturn. We always have downturns. There's always recessions. And when we have that, we're going to have a political, social issue in much the same way as we had that. That conflict within countries and that conflict between countries comes from that analogous types of situations. So I think it's important to understand those patterns.
Just very briefly, you say that a debt crisis can be well managed, but I'm assuming this one wasn't well managed, the recent one.
No, it was well managed. It just wasn't well anticipated. I mean, we got past it this time, right? There are four things you can do to manage it. You can cut spending, you can print money, you can... Anyway, there are things you can do. And basically it means that you can spread it out. You can spread it out over a period of time. And that's what we did. We've spread it out over a period of time. But it wasn't anticipated. And it wasn't. It was managed well because it was like a firestorm, and it could have been managed a lot better if it was anticipated and spread out better over a period of time.
Okay.
And I think that the next one will come along, and that's why I think it's important to understand those patterns, and which is why I wrote those principles.
Indeed. And Ray, listen, I wish I had a longer program, but I don't, unfortunately. But we appreciate your time so much. Ray Dalio, thanks very much, and good luck with the book. Hey, coming up, do you know, with the world losing some $250 billion a year in lost labour because of air pollution, this expert right here, he's going to tell us how urban areas are trying to go green to, well, clean up the environment. I'll see you after the break.